Most men live weak. They chase comfort, they avoid pain, they trade power for approval, and then they wonder why the world crushes them. But you, if you are here, you already know something must change. The strongest version of yourself will not come from softness. It will not come from waiting. It will not come from hoping the world will treat you fairly. The strongest version of yourself is built from ruthlessness. Not cruelty without reason, but cold, precise ruthlessness, directed first at your own weakness, then at everything that stands in your way. Machiavelli taught rulers that mercy without power is suicide. He taught that to rise, you must cut without hesitation. The same applies to you. If you wish to be untouchable, you must learn to kill the weaker version of yourself. So this is where your journey begins. This is rule 1. Stop living like prey. The world respects only predators. The world respects only strength. And strength begins with a ruthless decision. Never again will you bow to weakness. Go to the comments right now and write, "I kill weakness daily." Declare it. Etch it into stone. Because only when the old version of you dies can the strongest version of you rise. Part 2. The law of cold focus. Most men waste their lives chasing shadows. They scatter their energy across 1,000 useless things. Endless scrolling, gossip, cheap entertainment, chasing women who don't respect them, trying to impress people who don't matter. And then they wonder why they remain weak, forgotten, invisible. Focus is everything. But not just any focus. Cold focus. The kind that is ruthless, merciless, unmoved. Machiavelli knew that power belongs not to those who do everything, but to those who do the one thing that matters most with unstoppable precision. Cold focus means you cut away distractions with a blade. You do not argue with them. You do not negotiate with them. You destroy them. Every moment you give to weakness is stolen from your rise. Every hour wasted is a piece of your empire burned before it was even built. So you must treat your attention like treasure, guarded, untouchable, protected. Cold focus also means you are not swayed by emotion. It means you can walk past temptation and remain still. It means you can face insults without reaction. It means you direct your fire toward your mission, and nothing can pull you away. The man with cold focus is terrifying. He cannot be distracted. He cannot be manipulated. He cannot be stopped. He is a fortress with one open path forward, and everything else is cut away. This is your rule 2. Your focus is your weapon. Guard it with your life. Now write in the comments, "My focus is untouchable." Say it, declare it, live it. Because once your focus becomes cold, your rise becomes unstoppable. Part 3. Mastery of emotion. Weak men are ruled by emotion. They explode in anger. They drown in sadness. They tremble in fear. They beg in desperation. And the world watches and uses it against them. Understand this: if others can trigger your emotions, they own you. If they can make you rage, they can control your actions. If they can make you fear, they can chain your decisions. If they can make you crave their approval, they can enslave your soul. Machiavelli warned that rulers must appear in control even when chaos surrounds them. Why? Because the man who cannot command himself can never command anyone else. Mastery of emotion does not mean you feel nothing. It means you feel everything, but you choose when and how to use it. You are not a slave to anger. You weaponize it into discipline. You are not destroyed by fear. You refine it into preparation. You are not broken by pain. You harden it into wisdom. Picture 2 men. One screams, shouts, and loses control at every insult. The other remains calm, silent, unreadable. Which one terrifies you more? The calm one, because you cannot measure him. You cannot predict him. You cannot move him. This is true mastery. When betrayal comes, you study before you strike. When opportunity arrives, you wait for the perfect moment. When chaos swallows others, you remain unmoved. That stillness, that control, that is where true power lives. This is rule 3. rule yourself or be ruled forever. You must become the master of your inner storms, or the storms will consume you. Now go to the comments and write, "I rule over emotion." Etch it like iron. Because when you own your emotions, you own your fate. The strongest version of you is not the man who never feels. It is the man who feels deeply but never loses control. That is the man who becomes untouchable. Part 4. The ruthlessness of discipline. Every man wants strength. Every man dreams of power. But most men are too weak to enforce discipline on themselves. They live as slaves to comfort, sleeping late, eating garbage, scrolling endlessly, avoiding the work that would forge them into something greater. Discipline is the blade that cuts you free from mediocrity. Without it, your potential rots. With it, you rise above 99% of men. Machiavelli wrote that rulers who cannot enforce discipline in their armies will lose their kingdoms. Understand this: your body is your army, your mind is your army, your habits are your soldiers. If you do not command them, you will be conquered by laziness, by distraction, by weakness. Discipline means you do not wait for motivation. Motivation is a child's toy. Discipline is a weapon. You act not because you feel like it, but because it must be done. You train when tired. You focus when bored. You execute even when your emotions resist. This is not about punishment. This is about power. Every time you obey your discipline, you grow stronger. Every time you betray it, you weaken your own fortress. Discipline is also ruthless. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you cut off pleasures that soften you. It demands that you choose long-term power over short-term comfort. The weak see sacrifice as pain. The strong see sacrifice as sharpening steel. Picture two men. One indulges in every temptation. He laughs now but crumbles when life strikes. The other sacrifices daily: sleep, comfort, distraction. He appears cold, but when challenges come, he is unbreakable. Which man do you want to be? Because only one survives. This is rule 4, discipline or death. If you lack discipline, you are already finished. If you master it, you are unstoppable. Now, write in the comments, "Discipline is my weapon." Seal it with your words. Because once discipline rules your life, weakness has no place to live. Remember this: the ruthless do not ask for an easier life. They demand a stronger self. And discipline is how you build him. Part 5. The strategy of detachment. Attachment is weakness. It is the rope that drags men into slavery. It ties them to people who betray them. It binds them to habits that rot them. It chains them to emotions that make them predictable. The strongest version of you cannot afford chains. You must walk free, and that requires detachment. Machiavelli taught that rulers must never depend fully on others, because dependency is a weapon that can be turned against you. This law applies to you. If someone can take away your peace by leaving, if they can crush your mind by withdrawing attention, if they can control you by dangling approval, you are not strong. You are dependent. Detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means you control everything. It means you can love, but not need. You can give, but never beg. You can walk away from anyone, anything, at any time, and still remain whole. Think of two men. One clings to relationships, terrified of being alone. He tolerates disrespect, betrayal, weakness, because he fears loss. The other loves, but he is not enslaved. He stays because he chooses, not because he needs. He can walk away in silence, leaving nothing for the other to hold against him. Which one is stronger? Always the detached man. Detachment is also clarity. When you are attached, you lie to yourself. You justify toxic people. You excuse weakness. You blind yourself to red flags. But when detached, you see truth as it is. You see people for what they are, not what you hope they will be. And with truth comes power. Enemies exploit attachment. They provoke emotions, they dangle rewards, they make promises. But if you are detached, none of it touches you. They cannot manipulate a man who needs nothing. They cannot destroy a man who does not beg. This is Rule 5. Detach or be destroyed. Your power must never rest in the hands of another. Now go to the comments and write, "Nothing owns me." Say it until it is carved into your identity. Because the day you truly detach, you will terrify the world. They will not know how to control you. They will not know how to move you. They will realize you cannot be bribed, baited, or broken. And that is when you will walk as something rare, not a slave of emotion, not a servant of others, but a man, whole, free, untouchable. Part 6. The law of patience and timing. The weak man rushes. He lunges at every opportunity. He grabs desperately, fearing it will vanish. And in his haste, he destroys himself. The strong man waits. He knows time is a weapon. He knows patience is sharper than any blade. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors those who prepare, who strike not at the first chance, but at the perfect one. Power is not about speed. Power is about precision. Look at the predator. It does not chase every shadow in the grass. It waits, it observes, it lets the prey expose itself. Then, one strike, final, irreversible. This is how you must think. Stop scattering your energy. Stop rushing into battles that do not matter. Stop speaking too soon, revealing too much, acting without calculation. Impatience exposes you. Impatience weakens you. Patience, on the other hand, terrifies people. When you do not react immediately, they begin to question themselves. When you remain silent, they reveal more. When you wait, they make mistakes. And when you finally act, you act with certainty. This does not mean laziness. Patience is not inaction, it is preparation. It is building your strength, sharpening your weapons, perfecting your timing while the world underestimates you. It is the calm before the storm you choose to unleash. Think of two men. One rushes to prove himself, loud, desperate, reckless. The other waits, calm, steady, unmoved. When the time is right, he acts once and wins completely. Which man do you fear? Always the one who waits. Patience also protects you from traps. Enemies will provoke you, insult you, tempt you, trying to make you move before you are ready. If you bite, you lose. If you wait, they reveal themselves, and you win. This is Rule 6. Wait, watch, and strike only when the time is perfect. A single precise move is worth more than 100 desperate ones. Now go to the comments and write, "My patience is my weapon." Repeat it until it burns into your mind. Because the man who controls time controls power. The man who rushes wastes his life. But the man who waits, prepares, and strikes at the exact moment, he cannot be stopped. He becomes inevitable. Part 7. The power of silence. Most men destroy themselves with their own tongues. They speak too much. They reveal their plans, their fears, their insecurities, all for a few moments of attention. And in their words, they give away their power. But silence is a fortress. Silence is a weapon sharper than steel. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates fear. Machiavelli taught that rulers must never reveal the full truth of their intentions. Once your enemy knows your plan, he can counter it. But if he does not know, he is forced to guess, and guessing makes him weak. Weak men cannot endure silence. They feel invisible, so they over-explain. They feel insecure, so they justify. They feel desperate, so they speak without control, and every word becomes a rope their enemies use to bind them. The strong man speaks little. He listens, he observes, and when he does speak, every word lands like a hammer. Think of two men in conflict. One shouts, rages, fills the room with noise. The other remains silent, eyes calm, presence unshaken. Which one feels stronger? Always the silent one. Because silence is pressure. It forces the other man to reveal himself, to expose his weakness, to crumble under the weight of his own noise. Silence also controls perception. When you are silent, people project their fears and insecurities onto you. They imagine your thoughts, your plans, your strength, and their imagination will always be darker and more intimidating than anything you could say aloud. But silence is not only about words, it is also about reaction. When insulted, you do not rise. When provoked, you do not bite. When pressured, you do not reveal. You remain unmoved, untouchable. This terrifies people more than any outburst ever could. Silence also makes your presence heavy. When you walk into a room and say little, people notice. They wait, they wonder, they respect. Because the man who speaks less always seems to know more. And the man who needs no validation commands it without asking. This is Rule 7. Say less, reveal less, react less. Silence is not emptiness. It is power. Now, go to the comments and write, "My silence is my power." Declare it like an oath, because once you master silence, your presence alone becomes a weapon. Remember this: kings do not explain themselves. Predators do not announce the hunt. And the strongest version of you does not waste his breath. He speaks only when it is final, only when it is necessary, only when it strikes like a blade. The weak fill the air with noise. The strong bend the air with silence. And silence is the language of power. Part 8. The currency of fear and respect. Money is useful. Status is useful. Strength is useful. But none of these are the ultimate currency of power. The true currencies are fear and respect. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Why? Because love fades. Love is conditional. Love is selfish. But fear is primal. Fear endures. Fear commands obedience long after affection has disappeared. Now understand this clearly. Fear and respect are not the same, but they are linked. Respect without fear is fragile. Fear without respect is chaos. But when you cultivate both, you become untouchable. 1. The weak man's fate. Weak men chase approval. They want to be liked. They bend, they beg, they soften their edges just to win validation. And in the end, they gain neither fear nor respect. They become forgettable. They become disposable. They become tools for others to use. You cannot afford this fate. The strongest version of yourself must never beg for approval. You must command it. 2. The nature of fear. Fear is not cruelty for the sake of cruelty. Fear is psychological dominance. It is the understanding that others know you are not to be crossed. It is the aura that tells the world, if you betray me, you will regret it. Think of a lion. The lion does not roar constantly. It does not chase every threat. It simply exists, and its presence alone terrifies everything around it. This is what you must become. Not loud, not desperate, but a presence that radiates danger. The kind of man who doesn't need to threaten, because everyone knows crossing him carries consequences. 3. The nature of respect. But fear without respect is unstable. If men only fear you, they will plot against you the first chance they get. Respect balances fear. Respect means they see discipline in you. They see control, intelligence, clarity. They may fear your wrath, but they also admire your strength. They may not like you, but they cannot deny you. This is the secret. The world must fear the consequences of opposing you, and respect the discipline that makes you rise above them. 4. How to cultivate both. To cultivate fear, you must be willing to act when disrespected. You do not need to explode in rage. You act with precision. You enforce boundaries without hesitation. You cut off traitors without explanation. You punish betrayal so cleanly, so coldly, that others hesitate before thinking of doing the same. To cultivate respect, you must embody discipline. You must control yourself. You must carry yourself with composure, with presence, with silence. You must let your results speak, your resilience shine, your patience terrify. Fear comes from your ruthlessness. Respect comes from your mastery. Together, they create the aura of the untouchable. 5. Fear and respect in everyday life. Consider this in practical terms. At work, the man who begs for approval is ignored. The man who sets boundaries, who holds his composure, who does not allow disrespect, he commands both fear and respect. In relationships, the man who clings desperately is taken for granted. The man who detaches, who demands respect, who can walk away without hesitation, he is feared and respected. In competition, the loud one who talks endlessly is forgotten. The silent one who delivers results without excuses, he is remembered. This is not about arrogance. This is about presence. It is about making your aura so heavy that others cannot help but acknowledge it. 6. The Machiavellian balance. Machiavelli understood the delicate balance between fear and respect. He knew that men are selfish, fickle, and quick to betray when it benefits them. So he taught rulers, make betrayal too costly, and loyalty becomes the only option. For you, this means you must become a man whose boundaries are iron. You must be kind when it serves you, but ruthless when required. You must give respect to those who deserve it, but withdraw it instantly when it is broken. The strong man is feared by his enemies. The strong man is respected by his allies. The strong man is untouchable because both forces protect him. 7. Your rule. This is Rule 8. Command both fear and respect. One without the other is weakness. Together, they make you unstoppable. So here is your declaration. Go to the comments and write, I command fear and respect. Write it like a law. Write it like prophecy, because once you carry this balance inside you, the world will never look at you the same way again. 8. Closing. The man who is liked is forgotten. The man who is only feared is destroyed, but the man who is feared and respected, he becomes legend. That is the path you are walking. That is the currency you will collect. Not approval, not popularity, but fear and respect, the eternal twin pillars of power. Part 9. The weight of legacy. Most men live like ghosts. They are born, they drift, and they vanish. Their names are whispered once at a funeral and then buried with them. Within a generation, it is as if they never existed. No mark left, no echo, no weight. Why? Because they lived small. They lived for comfort, for distraction, for fleeting pleasure. They spent their lives chasing approval, chasing cheap thrills, chasing things that rot quickly. They built nothing that could endure. They died as if they were never alive. But you, if you are here, if you have followed this path, you know this cannot be your fate. You are not here to vanish. You are here to remain. You are here to carve your name into stone, to leave a shadow that lingers after you are gone. You are here to forge a legacy. 1. What legacy really means. Legacy is not shallow fame. It is not empty applause. It is not being liked by the masses. Legacy is weight. It is the imprint you leave on reality itself. It is the stories that continue long after your voice is silent. It is the influence that spreads even when your body is dust. Machiavelli knew this truth well. He wrote not to be liked in his lifetime, but to be remembered forever. And centuries later, his name still commands fear, curiosity, and respect. That is legacy. 2. The weak man and the strong man. The weak man seeks comfort. The strong man seeks eternity. The weak man dies twice, once when his body fails, and once when his name is spoken for the last time. The strong man dies only once because his name, his deeds, his presence, his mark outlast his flesh. This is the choice before you. Do you want to be dust, or do you want to be stone? 3. How legacy is built. Legacy is not built in one moment. It is forged daily, ruthlessly, relentlessly. Every decision you make either builds your fortress or crumbles it. Every sacrifice strengthens your foundation or weakens it. Every act of discipline, every moment of silence, every ruthless cut of weakness lays another stone in your monument. Legacy demands clarity. It demands that you live not only for today, but for eternity. It demands that you ask, will this choice echo when I am gone? If the answer is no, it is worthless. 4. The role of pain in legacy. Weak men run from pain, but strong men know pain is the architect of legacy. Every scar tells a story, every sacrifice adds weight. Every rejection, every betrayal, every failure becomes fuel. Because comfort dies quickly, but pain refines you into something immortal. The men remembered in history are not remembered for their easy days. They are remembered for what they built through suffering, through discipline, through sacrifice. So embrace pain, turn it into stone, stack it into walls, and let your enemies bleed against them. 5. Legacy in power. Machiavelli taught rulers to build power that outlives them, structures, systems, reputations. Why? Because a man who builds only for himself dies with himself. But a man who builds beyond himself becomes untouchable. Your habits are your structures, your discipline is your system, your reputation is your echo. Do not waste time trying to be liked. Be remembered. Liked men fade, feared and respected men remain. 6. The ruthlessness of legacy. Legacy requires ruthlessness. You cannot build it while clinging to weakness. You cannot build it while addicted to distractions. You cannot build it if you fear judgment. To build legacy, you must kill the softer version of yourself. You must detach from approval. You must sacrifice the comfort that keeps you ordinary. You must endure being misunderstood, even hated, because the men who shaped history were rarely liked, but they were always remembered. 7. Legacy in action. Imagine two men. One spends his life seeking pleasure. He dies, and within months, no one remembers him. The other spends his life sharpening himself, building, creating, cutting weakness, commanding respect. He dies, but his story spreads, his presence lingers, his example inspires. Which man do you want to be? Because one of them is forgotten, the other becomes legend. 8. The weight you must carry. Legacy is heavy. It demands more than comfort, more than survival, more than mediocrity. But weight builds strength, and carrying the burden of legacy transforms you into something eternal. So carry it daily. Carry it until it bends you into the strongest version of yourself. 9. Your rule. This is rule 9. Live for legacy, not comfort. Do not waste your life chasing distractions. Do not waste your time seeking applause. Live in such a way that your name will echo. Live in such a way that your presence will never be erased. Go to the comments and write, "My name will echo." Write it like a prophecy, because when you declare it, you begin to build it. 10. Closing. Remember this, the weak man dies twice. The strong man never dies at all, because the strong man builds legacy, and legacy is immortality. Part 10. The final transformation. This is the last law, the end of weakness, the birth of your final form. If you have listened this far, you are no longer the same man. You have begun the transformation, from fragile to focused, from ordinary to untouchable. But now, you must seal it. You must step into the final rule. Become the strongest version of yourself, not just stronger than you were yesterday, not just stronger than the men around you, the strongest version possible, the version forged by ruthlessness, discipline, silence, patience, detachment, fear, respect, and legacy. This version of you cannot be shaken. This version of you cannot be broken. This version of you becomes a force. 1. Death of the old self. You cannot transform until the old self is destroyed, the self that begged for approval, the self that drowned in emotion, the self that wasted time on distractions and comforts. That version of you must die, completely, ruthlessly, without mercy. Machiavelli taught that when a prince takes new power, he must destroy the old order so completely that it can never return. Apply this truth to yourself. You must burn the bridges back to weakness. No safety net, no return. Only the path forward, to strength, to power, to greatness. Write in the comments, "The weak me is dead." Say it like an execution. Say it like the final strike. 2. The rebirth of the fortress mind. When the old self is gone, the new self rises, piece by piece, rule by rule. You rebuild yourself as a fortress, unshakable, unmovable, untouchable. Inside this fortress, your focus is protected. No distraction can invade it. Your discipline is enforced. No weakness can survive within it. Your patience sharpens your timing. Your silence shields your plans. Your detachment frees you from chains. Your aura commands fear and respect. And your every action lays another stone in your legacy. This fortress is your mind. And once it is built, the world cannot breach it. 3. Becoming predator, not prey. Weak men are prey. They react, they beg, they chase, they hope to be chosen. But the strongest version of you is predator. The predator does not rush. The predator does not beg. The predator does not explain. The predator chooses, waits, and strikes only once, with finality. This is how you must now think. You are no longer chasing. You are hunting. And the world feels it. 4. The cold ownership of fate. Most men leave their lives to fate. They complain about luck. They blame destiny. They surrender their power to chance. But not you. You take ownership of your fate. Half of life may be fortune, as Machiavelli wrote, but the other half belongs to the man who seizes it. You prepare, you discipline, you calculate, and when opportunity comes, you do not hope. You strike. This is the difference between ordinary men and legends. Ordinary men wait for life to give them scraps. Legends take what is theirs. Write it in the comments, "I own my fate." Because if you do not own it, it will own you. 5. The untouchable man. Now comes the highest state, untouchability. The untouchable man is not invincible because nothing touches him externally. He is invincible because nothing breaks him internally. Insults, they do not reach him. Betrayal, it does not shatter him. Loss, it does not destroy him. He stands because his strength is built inside, where no one can touch it. This is the ultimate transformation. When you no longer depend on approval, comfort, possessions, or even certainty, you become free. And freedom is power. The untouchable man is feared by enemies, respected by allies, and impossible to move. He becomes more than a man. He becomes a force. 6. The oath of transformation. Now, it is time to declare your oath. Not a whisper, not a wish, an oath. Go to the comments and write, "I am untouchable." Say it like prophecy. Say it like destiny. Say it until it feels real, because it is. This oath marks the final death of weakness. This oath marks the final rise of strength. 7. Closing command. If you felt this fire burn through you, if you are ready to kill the weak self and rebuild the untouchable one, then act now. Like this video as a mark of your transformation. Subscribe to Mental Fort to continue sharpening your mind and forging your power. Turn on notifications, because every law, every principle, every strategy I give here will be another weapon in your arsenal. Do not hesitate. Do not delay. Hesitation belongs to the weak. Action belongs to the strong. This is the end of the rules, but it is the beginning of you. The strongest, most ruthless, most untouchable version of yourself. And from this day forward, the world will no longer see you as another man. The world will feel you as a force carved in silence, sharpened by patience, strengthened by discipline, freed by detachment, armored by legacy, and crowned with fear and respect. This is your final law. This is your final transformation. This is your rise. You are untouchable.